Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are studying tonight from the Bhagavad-Gita, 15th chapter, text 7, Yoga of the Supreme Person. This is a very, very commonly quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada. It's rather a famous verse. Mamaimvam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manaha shastrani indrani prakriti stani karshati mamaimvam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashastan indriyani prakriti stani karshati mamambam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manaha shastra indriyani prakriti stani karshati. My eva, certainly, amshaha, fragmental parcel, jiva loke, in the world of conditional life, jiva bhutaha, the conditioned living entity, sanatanaha, eternal, manaha, with the mind, shastani, the six, indriyani, senses, prakriti, immaterial nature, stani, situated, karshati, is struggling hard. Purport and translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditional life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said, Sanatana. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva, and the secondary expansions are called the living entities. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and the living entities are the separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Rama, Nrsimha, Vishnumurti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of Godhead, are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities as fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity as an individual soul has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal, as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from this material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. The living entities, not only human beings and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations. The word karshati, struggling or grabbing hard, is very significant. The conditioned soul is bound up as though shackled by iron chains. He is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent which is driving him in this material existence. When the mind is in the mode of goodness, his activities are good. When the mind is in the mode of passion, his activities are troublesome. And when the mind is in the mode of ignorance, he travels in the lower species of life. It is clear, however, in this verse that the conditioned soul is covered by the material body with the mind and the senses, and when he is liberated, this material covering perishes. But his spiritual body manifests itself in its individual capacity. The following information is there in the Madhyanayana Shruti. Sava esa brahmanishta idam shariram martyam atrisya brahmamarvisham adya brahma pashyati brahmana snoti brahmana aivedam savamanu bhavati. It is stated here that when a living entity gives up this material embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he revives his spiritual body. And in his spiritual body, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. From Smriti also it is understood, the Santiyatra Pushaha Sarve Vaikunta Murtayaha. In the spiritual planets, everyone lives in bodies, featured like the Supreme Personality of Godheads. As far as bodily construction is concerned, there is no difference between the part and parcel living entities and the expansions of Vishnumurti. In other words, at liberation, the living entity gets a spiritual body by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Mamai Vamsa, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also very significant. The fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is not like some material broken part. We have already understood in the second chapter that the spirit cannot be cut into pieces. This fragment is not materially conceived. It is not like matter, which can be cut into pieces and joined together again. That conception is not applicable here because the Sanskrit word sanatana, eternal, is used. The fragmental portion is eternal. It is also stated in the beginning of the second chapter that in each and every individual body, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord is present. Dehinosmin yata dehe. That fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in a spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. It is, however, understood here that the living entity, being the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is qualitatively qualitatively one with the Lord, just as the parts and parcels of gold are also gold. Om Gana Timirandasya Jananjana Sayakaya Zalakaya Ampahina Asmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utavara Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvarutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakar Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gorande Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapatruyascha Kripa Sindhu Payevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai devotees, dear devotees, thank you for coming this evening. It's so nice to have this opportunity, as an honor to have an opportunity to speak about Srimad Bhagavad-Gita in the Association of Devotees in Vrindavan. Very special. And this particular chapter is very special, as well as this particular verse. Of course, I say that about all of Prabhupada's purports, but I like this one because he really explains the difference between Vaishnava philosophy and the impersonal philosophy. And impersonalism is something that is so widespread. It's so absorbed in society. It's so absorbed in all different types of religions and philosophies. So it's inevitable we're going to run into people like that. And it probably have tinges of that in our hearts that need to be eradicated. So it's good for us to hear this over and over again to help get rid of those concepts. But this chapter starts off with Krishna giving a beautiful analogy. Srila Prabhupada gave so many beautiful analogies. We could probably put a thick book together of all the analogies Prabhupada used. And these analogies are so nice because they really help us understand the situation. Because to translate spiritual concepts into material understanding is not really a very easy thing to do. But analogies is an excellent medium to help bring spiritual understanding into material brains. But he starts by describing this banyan tree and as a reflection of the real existence. It's not that it's not real, it's just that it's temporary. The roots go upwards, the branches go downwards, the twigs, they are the objects of the senses, the leaves are the Vedic hymns, and the roots going down are the living entities bound by fruitive activities. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived from this particular world, and no one understands where it begins or where it ends. So Krishna says one must cut down this tree with two things. Can anybody name them? You didn't know you were having a test today, did you? Huh? Yes, detachment and determination. Yes, both of those things help. And that's how we get out of this material entanglement. And after that, we seek a place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Basically, Krishna describes the material world and an elaborate on why we must get out of this material world. He says, those who reach it never return to this banyan tree. Baba said there's no desire to come back here once we leave this material world, because it's such a horrible place. And it is so expert at hiding the horribleness of this place. It's the illusory energy is so powerful. The living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, eternally. Prabhupada is stressing this. It is not that he assumes individuality in conditional life, and then in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. That's the Mayavadi concept, that we merge with God, and that we just forgot we were God because we fell into Maya. But if Maya is able to overtake God, then God is actually Maya. So that's not possible. And that we are eternally separate. It's clearly said, Sanatana. And then he goes into the word Mamayavamsa, fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. The Lord also has his other personalities that he manifests, like Vishnu, Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana. He has so many different manifestations that he manifests, and those are eternally with him. And he manifests those at his will. And we see some examples of that when he was in the forest with the gopis, and he hid from them. And they went out looking for him. And it was like an army searching. They were shoulder to shoulder, looking under every bush and every tree for Krishna. And Krishna saw them coming, so he made himself like Narayan. And they saw Narayan, they offered obeisances and pranams, and then they asked him, did you see where Krishna went? And Krishna, he said, oh, I think over there. He sends them to a different place. But when Radharani came by, he couldn't maintain that form because of her great depth of love and devotion. He had to manifest his original form. And then, of course, the other time that I can think of is when Nityananda was attacked by Jagai and Madai. And Lord Chaitanya became so furious. His fury was like Nrsimha. He was so angry. And everyone was trembling with fear, just like all the demigods were trembling with fear in the presence of Lord Nrsimhadev. And no one could pacify Lord Nrsimhadev except for Prahlad Maharaj. But Lord Nityananda was able to pacify Lord Chaitanya by reminding him why they appeared in Kali Yuga. Otherwise, he said, you'll have to kill everyone. So, but also in this purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the fragmental portion, when liberated from the material entanglement, revives his original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in a spiritual planet, and enjoys association with the Supreme Lord. Now, this is actually a hot topic in ISKCON. There's these two ways of seeing this. And I believe the Shastra Committee of the GBC has written a paper about this, justifying both thoughts on this matter. Is that the soul falls from the spiritual sky somehow or another due to lust and takes birth in the material energy. And the other one is that the living entity comes from the Brahma Jyoti, because there are different acharyas and sadhus in our lineage who see and express both perspectives. So that is no reason to argue over things like this. There's a wonderful class called Hermeneutics, which teaches devotees on how to discuss spiritual topics in a peaceful way, not just trying to push our point onto someone else. And even when we're speaking to the public, it never helps to be too dogmatic, but too overpowering, because people have to understand spirituality from within, from the heart. It has to be something they understand from there. And that's not done with force. As we can see, the way Srila Prabhupada taught is through a great amount of patience and love and dedication. There's a great example of this of Srila Rupa Goswami. His nephew, Jiva Goswami, was, of course, his brother Anupam's son, who Anupam died rather early in Chaitanya Leela. He had left his body, and he left a son who showed immense spiritual mentality at a very young age. And as soon as he got old enough, he went to Vrindavan to be with his uncles, Rupa and Sanatan. And there he studied under them very enthusiastically. And they became more than gurus, they became father figures as well. And that way, many of us felt towards Srila Prabhupada like he was a father figure, because he taught us everything. Everything, cooking, how to raise children, how to do management, how to do business, all kinds of things he taught. And so he was more like a father. And so Jiva had this very, very close relationship with Rupa. But one time, this Baladev Vibhusana, not the same one that Prabhupada dedicates the Bhagavad-Gita to, but a different one, he came to Vrindavan. He came to visit Rupa, and he asked Srila Rupa Goswami what he was working on. He explained he was working on the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, and he let him read it. And Baladev Vibhusana, he found some fault, and he about it told Srila Rupa Goswami, well, this is very good, but there's this problem with your understanding of something. So he then left to take bath in the Jamuna, and Jiva Goswami followed him. And when he went here, he explained to Baladev Vibhusana, you have a misunderstanding here. It's not Rupa. Is that he is describing that the witch of desire for moksha is a witch. The desire is a witch, not moksha is a witch. So that's how Baladev Vibhusana misunderstood. He thought that Rupa Goswami was saying that moksha was a witch, but it was the desire for moksha that's the witch. And that is true for pure devotional service. Anything that we desire that's separate from pure loving service to the Lord is a distraction from the Lord. So in that way, when Baladev Vibhusana went back, he told Rupa Goswami, he says, your nephew's brilliant. He's such an educated, you're doing a wonderful job with him. And he praised him and told him what happened. But when Jiva Goswami came back into the presence of Rupa Goswami was not happy with him. And he told him, he says, you do not have the right mentality to be in Vrindavan. You should go. And this was so heartbreaking for Jiva Goswami. He left and he went to live in a crocodile hole, cave. It's still, you can see it in Govardhan. It's only about this high at the highest, and it's a mud. It's all mud and filthy, and it looks cold and just awful place to stay. He also took a vow that he wouldn't eat any cooked foods, and he only took a little atta flour and mixed it with water and ate that and drank a little buttermilk. So he hardly had anything. And he just simply chanted and cried the whole time. And then Sanatana Goswami, who's known for circumambulating Govardhan Hill so many times, that he was chanting one time and walking, a resident there said, "Oh, you sound like our sadhu." And Sanatana Goswami says, "You're sadhu? What do you mean?" He says, "Oh, we have a sadhu who lives in this crocodile hole, and he chants like you. And he only eats a little buttermilk and atta flour, and he cries and chants all the time." And so Sanatana Goswami knew, oh, this must be Jiva Goswami. So he went and got him, and he brought him back. But the lessons here, there's some really good lessons here. And one of the lessons is the need of humility, the need to be humble in the Holy Land, especially in Vrindavan. And that there's a certain sadachar, a certain etiquette with devotees. And much as possible, we need to learn what that etiquette is and follow it carefully. Because we don't want to be sent away from Vrindavan. And so if we do have a difference of opinion with someone, as we can see, Rupa Goswami, he didn't want to press his explanation onto Baladev Vibhibhushana. He wasn't about to impress him with his talk like that, because he felt that it might just lead to a disagreement, an argument. And so he let it go. There was another time a similar situation happened when Jiva Goswami defended Rupa Goswami. And again, Rupa Goswami, he was trying to emphasize it's not important for us to have fame, adoration, or distinction. It doesn't matter if people defeat us. It doesn't matter how people treat us. It matters how we are as devotees. We need to have a very humble attitude. And so this is a nice lesson in this point. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain how Krishna also has his personal expansions. And we talked about that. And that we also have minute independence. And that minute independence is what can get us into trouble. And here in this material world, if we immediately misuse our minute independence, we have that opportunity every day, every minute of every day, to make a decision. What I'm doing now, is this Krishna conscious? Is this going to support my spiritual life? Is this going to help me purify my heart? So that's our choice every minute of every day. But if we make the wrong decision, immediately it's like a floodgate opening. The modes of material nature come in and take us over. And we learned from the previous chapter 14 about those modes of material nature and how they affect us. So it's another quick test here about how the modes of material nature affect us. They make us act in different ways. So if we see somebody and he's illuminated by knowledge and happy, which mode is he influenced by? Which mode is he influenced by? Goodness, okay, you have a choice of three: goodness, passion, or ignorance. If he's happy, he's illuminated, he's bright-faced, he's chanting Hare Krishna. Goodness, good, thank you. And let's see, if he's eating foods that are sweet, juicy, wholesome, clean, and fresh, what mode is he affected by? Same, yes. If a person is greatly attached, engaged in fruitive activity, intense endeavor, uncontrollable desire, which mood is he influenced by? Passion, good. And if one goes down to a hellish planet, which mood is he in? Ignorance, yeah. So you studied that chapter well. So we make a choice, and it's really important for us to come to the mode of pure goodness, because it's from the mode of pure goodness that we can enter transcendence. We can't do it if we're enmeshed in other modes. And that's because we might have attachment to things in those modes that we have to let go of. He also mentions in this purport that when the living entity gives up his embodiment and enters into the spiritual world, he receives his spiritual body, and is in spiritual body can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He can hear and speak to him face to face, and he can understand the Supreme Personality as he is. In the previous chapter 14, it also says he can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in this body, because after leaving this body, he is certainly going to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is a sign of liberation from material entanglement. And this will be explained in the 18th chapter. So stay tuned. But there's a beautiful example of this pastime of Dukkha Krishna Das. He was initiated by Hari Chaitanya Gosai, and he requested him to go to Vrindavan and learn under Jiva Goswami. And so there he had he was having nice classes and learning regularly from Jiva Goswami. And his service was that he would clean the kunj, where Radha and Krishna were known to have had their pastimes. And his guru, Hari Chaitanya Goswami, he requested Jiva Goswami to send him regular updates on his disciple, and to teach his disciple the confidential secrets of devotional service. And so Jiva Goswami took care of this, and by the mercy of Jiva Goswami, Krishnadas worshipped Radha and Krishna according to the process of Raganuga Bhakti, day and night, and he became increasingly absorbed in devotional service. Thinking only of the pastimes of the Lord, he repeatedly fell into trances of spontaneous devotional service. Externally, he carefully performed his sadhana, which included cleaning an area called Kalpa Kunja Kutira and serving Srila Jiva Goswami. This Kalpa Kunja Kutira in Vrindavan is known as a place where Radha and Krishna had their rasa dance. People who are not spiritually advanced are not able to perceive these divine activities. And one day, Radha and Krishna were enjoying their pastimes of dancing with the gopis. Radharani purposely left her ankle bell in this kunj. The next morning, when Krishna Das was cleaning the kunj, he came across and he found this amazingly beautiful ankle bell. And as soon as he picked it up and put it to his head, he fell down in a static trance. And when he came to again, he realized, this is very special, and I need to hide it, otherwise someone is going to steal it from me. So he buried it in the kunj. Meanwhile, Radharani requested Lalita to go to the kutir and retrieve her ankle bell. Well, Lalita, she disguised herself as an old lady, and she went to the kunj. And there she saw Krishna Das. And she asked him, she said, "Oh, my daughter-in-law, she's so forgetful. I sent her here to get some water from the Jamuna, and she's lost her ankle bell. Have you seen it?" Now, Krishna Das was a little skeptical. And so he asked her, he said, "Tell me frankly, where do you live and what is your name?" So Lalita said, "I'm Radha Dasi." Lalita said, and concealing her true identity, she said, "I belong to a Brahmana family in Vraj." And still suspicious, Krishnadas said, "Well, why don't we go to your village and you show me your neighbors, and if they recognize this ankle bell, I will give it back to you." Lalita realized that she was kind of trapped by Krishnadas. And so she said, she confessed, yes. She said, she says, yes, I belong to Radharani. And she told me she was Lalita. And Krishnadas, he just swelled with prema at this point. He became so ecstatic and he fell unconscious. So he says, yes, I will give you the ankle bell. So he went and he took a spade to dig up where the ankle bell was. And when he did that, the spade itself turned to gold. And he handed it to Lalita, who took it in a mystical way and touched his head. And she says, now you can ask any boon from me that you want. And he says, I want no boon. He says, but she had put the marks of Radharani's lotus feet on Krishnadas's head. She says, and she told him, from now on, you will be called Shaimanandi. And that and so from there, he said, I don't want any boon, and that I just want eternal devotional service. And so at that point, she revealed her true identity, and Lalita told him that you're anxious to see my spiritual form, but such a revelation would be too much for you to bear. And he told her, he said, by your grace, anything is possible. If you give me the ability to bear it, then I will be able. She told him to close her eyes, and in a few minutes she revealed her transcendental form. Gazing at the incomparable beauty of Lalita, he fell unconscious and began to foam at the mouth. As he came to his senses, she soothed him with kind words, and as he bowed to her feet with tears of love. And so at this point, she again offered him any boon that he asked for, and he says his only desire was to serve Radha Krishna. And Lalita smiled, knowing well the single-minded determination of young Krishnadas. You shall certainly attain the association of Radha Krishna, she said, but you cannot see them in this body. You must prepare yourself mentally, Manasa Seva, as a confidant of Shri Radha. Then you can come to the Kunj with Rupa Manjari and personally witness Rasa of Radha and Krishna. At that time, you shall discover everyone's real identity. This is self-realization. For now, continue serving Jiva Goswami in this body and continue doing your service for the divine couple Kunj. You will attain your preferred body, Siddhadeha, in due course. And with this advice, she gave him a second mantra, which she herself chanted, enabling her to constantly see Srimati Radharani's form. So, I guess we should end here. Are there any questions or comments, criticisms? Okay. Well, thank you again for coming to the class. Vanchakapatarubhyascha kripasindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha anantakoi vaishnavinda ki jai. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare